Hello, everybody, and welcome again to the Neurodiversity Gold podcast with me, Jude Morrow. And I will start with a very, very relevant plug at the top of the episode. We have partnered with RTN Mental Health Solutions to provide fast and affordable diagnostic assessments for autism, ADHD, and even combined assessments. And you can find out more about that on our company website, which is neurodiversity-training.net. You'll see at the top all the fancy marketing and training tabs and all that. Just click on the diagnostic tab and you can have a look at those. And my guest today is also a diagnostic clinician because what I have found over the years, kind of being in this space, is that diagnostic assessments and interviews for pretty much every area. There's always a backlog, unfair healthcare systems, and everything else thrown in between. And my guest today is a real champ based out in California, is joining us actually in the middle of the night, her time. And my guest today is Jen Slaton. Jen, hello, welcome finally to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
No, I mean, the pleasure is literally all mine. It always is. And I suppose your background is in, psychotherapy and coaching. So what has the psychotherapy and coaching journey been like over your time?
Well, I started being involved with autistic children when I was kind of coming out of high school, and I just was really drawn to working with them, and I ended up becoming a parent consultant. So for about 20 years, I would go into the home and help parents with their kids that might have some challenges. A lot of them were autistic. And so I have a lot of hands-on experience of actually seeing what works and what doesn't work and what works in a family system, because that's really important too. You can make a suggestion, but it doesn't work within the family system. So I just loved that job. And then the funding sources changed. And so I wasn't able to continue doing that. So I do coaching and I do psychotherapy where I'm licensed in California. So I work with kids, parents of autistic children, adults, and couples that maybe one or both partners are autistic. And then the coaching is very similar, but if you're outside of California, I cannot do an official, what we call a medical diagnosis, but I can still do a diagnostic assessment and let people know if they would have the traits of autism and qualify for that diagnosis. I find that it gives people such peace of mind to get that clarification.
Certainly does. It certainly does. I mean, a lot of people ask what the kind of goal is of a diagnostic assessment, and for a lot of people, it can be as simple as validation. And
Mm.
I don't know about you, but since we've been kind of promoting RTN and have been partnered with them, the vast majority of people who have come through the door have been autistic women and girls, are basically those who aren't male,
Yeah,
or
yes.
people who've been coming in. Is that the bulk of what you're getting as well?
Yeah, and actually, during the pandemic is when I kind of launched my coaching practice because I had time. And I started, I have not been a real social media person, but I started, interacting on social media and finding so many women that are late diagnosed autistic, and um, just reading their experiences and what they've gone through. So I actually started a support group for late diagnosed autistic women, or for it's adults at this point. And it's been amazing because what I was hearing is there's no services for adults. They may get diagnosed and then there's nothing. So, and I've had people who are very recently diagnosed meeting with other women that have had the same experience. and deal with the same challenges, and have said it was a life-changing group to be a part of. And yeah, and it's just such an honor for me to help facilitate that experience for people.
Absolutely. And I mean, I know, from the the show notes that you talk about, the support groups for late diagnosed autistic women, that's also inclusive of those assigned female at birth.
Yes.
And I mean, how do those support groups operate?
Yeah, so I keep it small. 6 is the maximum, and it people have a choice of, it's done on Zoom, but you can be off camera, you can type instead of speak, and I find that gives people the comfort, because for a lot of autistic people, first of all, joining a group can bring a lot of anxiety, and being on camera and have to deal with the visual and all that can bring a lot of anxiety. So it really is a safe space. And then I also let people know ahead of time what the structure of the group is. And because every group is different, the participants also can help decide, topics for the group, pacing of the group. Um, I had one group that really wanted to focus on topics. Another group, we spent all our time with everybody taking turns, kind of talking about what their issues are. And then the group would resonate with that or provide support and input, and then go on to the next person. And that was pretty much the whole group. So,
So, I mean, for any of those who are listening, because with the podcast, we actually have quite a large stamp in the USA. I mean, how do people locate you, talk to you, and with a view to joining a group like that? Because every single season of ND Gold, and there's so many episodes of this now. I think we must be near 60 episodes at this point. I mean,
oh,
recorded in total, some maybe out, some maybe not out yet. But the vast majority of people who want to come on and tell their story, it is all about late diagnosis. That's what it's about. It's late diagnoses. So, I mean, people obviously listen to them, people love them, and may be thinking, right, I have had a diagnosis, now what? So, how can people contact you to join these groups?
yeah, thank you. I have a website, and it's autism360support.com. So it's a number 360. And so I have,
Autism360support.com. Yes, I have got it here. Um, so basically, it says I've just opened it up on the screen here. So being autistic or neurodivergent can feel like you're in a whirlwind, which it can, which is right, which is a word that's very, very commonly told. And yeah, you have coaching and mentoring, virtual support groups, women support groups. So you do more than just women support groups. You do other ones as well.
I am available to do other groups if there's an interest. I really haven't found, I think I had 1 or 2 men contact me, but it's mostly the women that are contacting me. And I feel like it's really helpful to have just the women's group.
Mhm.
But I would be open to other groups if people have the interest.
If there was a need, yeah, of course, because one thing that I find is that you can never have enough support groups. Like anybody that comes to us, like any like NTI clients that come to us and they want to set up a support group, there's times I can think, have we not enough support groups already? But then whenever we talk and we kind of get it out there and get the marketing behind it, they fill up. Where
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
if there was like literally an
Yeah.
autism or neurodivergent support group, like in every town, it would probably just fill, no matter how rural that town may be.
Wow.
And what I always like to ask people is what results people can get by working with them. Because I mean, whenever it comes to coaching or diagnostics or whatever service anybody provides in this space, what how the successful people, the top 1%, are the top 1%. They market in a very particular way, and it's something that we've always taught, which is explaining the value people get out of working with you. So
Mhm.
I saw on your site you have plenty of case studies where you know, and the case study on there is Catherine. So, I mean, that can be read at autism360support.com. But in general, what results can people expect when working with you?
Yeah, thank you. That's the harder question for me because but to be honest, I get amazing feedback from my clients and participants. And in fact, one of the support group members did a YouTube video about her experience because she was so thrilled about how much it had helped her. Um, like I said, I think people in the group have not had an experience where they can meet other people like themselves and actually establish friendships where they've decided they were going to connect with each other outside of the group and maybe do, because one of them wanted to do exercise but couldn't commit to it, so another group member and she decided that they were going to do things outside of the group. So that's I don't know, it's amazing for people that haven't really had friends to find that they have people that they have so much in common with that they can bond with. When I do the diagnostics, it's, again, that's a life-changing experience because if people self-identify as having autism, they're usually right. I find they're usually able to go through checklists and see themselves in it, but having that validation and realizing that their whole life they felt something was wrong with them, that their self-esteem was so damaged. It's actually traumatizing to be neurodiverse and being treated as a neurotypical and being expected to act as a neurotypical. And so with the diagnosing and then some coaching and counseling around that, their whole view of themselves and of the world just changes. It's I don't know. Am I explaining that clearly enough?
You're explaining it perfectly clearly.
Okay.
Where I mean, I was lucky in that my diagnosis came when I was 11.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty standard for white middle class boys like Jude Morrow. And being autistic is all I've ever kind of known, but it was always this dark cloud or secret and something that I never really told anybody. I mean, was only informed of it whenever I was 18 or 19 because I probably wouldn't have handled it very well as a teenager. Well, I mean, the word probably is very inaccurate. I absolutely would not have handled it very well. And even then, I absolutely didn't handle it very well. So it was a bit of a secret thing. And whenever my first book came out, I just decided to write a book about my experience. Here's another pluggy, pluggy, plug, plug, plug. It was called Why Does Daddy Always Look So Sad? And whenever that came out, I found my tribe too, and it was the best thing I'd ever done. Where, autistic people reaching out to me, I was kind of connecting with other people and mixing and so on. And it's something that I really, really recommend because even now,
Yes.
like there's a lot of groups I'm in. There's a lot of groups I'm in that I like, that are run very well, that are friendly, where people can ask questions. You can give back, and I mean, and you're right. I mean, I have met friends for life
Yeah. Yeah.
through
Yeah.
that, and people have so much potential to meet people, collaborate, network, and pretty much everything else.
It can take away the shame and the hiding, like you said, of I don't know, in our culture, in a lot of places, it's something that should I tell anybody? And parents want to say, I don't know, should I tell my kid they're autistic? Should I tell their teachers? There's all this shame around it.
Yeah,
And
there
owning it,
is. It's
yeah,
sad.
yeah. And so owning it as a difference, and it's not wrong, it's just a difference. And, these amazing strengths and gifts and other challenges. And I find that a lot of the autistic children make their best friends with other autistic children. It feels like they can really understand each other, relate to each other, and it's not the struggle to understand the mysterious social cues of a neurotypical person, you know?
Birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it just happens. You know what? Every so often, it's just a group of guys that I've met, like, through the whole kind of autism and autistic journey. And, we were using Zoom and kind of video conferencing before it was unbelievably sexy to do so, from COVID. And we have a very, very special, secret, lucrative event, and it's called Neuro Beers, where we drink beers on Zoom and we absolutely info dump on each other, and it's really fun. Um, we we would I would love to have it like a series, like a series. It would be so fun, but the rest of them don't want to do it. But I suppose again,
I
that's
love
that's
it.
the marketer in me coming out. And I was just actually from looking at your site, because I do have it open. Is it just specifically autistic people you work with, or do you branch into other areas?
Yeah, absolutely. As a psychotherapist, I've worked with different kind of mental health issues. I work a lot with parents of kids with ADHD, kids with autism, especially like newly diagnosed, when parents are really struggling to understand and make sense out of, the autism world. Um, I worked with, kids with Down syndrome, and working with the kids, a lot of time, it always involves working with the parents as well. So, yeah, I've been
And you,
around for a long time.
yeah, yeah, you definitely have. And one thing that's really interesting that I would personally love to pick your brain about, because I do a lot of live shows, and as of the date of this recording, I actually have a live show tonight in Downpatrick and Down Arts Centre. You'll probably have seen me plaster it all over my social mediums. And one question that I always get in the Q&A is, how do I tell my autistic child's siblings? Or how
Mm,
does that work? Because I bet you're going to give everybody gold right now on that.
okay. Well, first of all, I know that different cultures have different ideas of that, and sometimes some cultures it's really goes against the culture to talk about disabilities and differences and all of that. But in general, I just really encourage the openness to that it's not a negative experience. I have one late diagnosed autistic woman that I interviewed, and she said that getting the diagnosis was not a label, it was a key. It's a key to understanding herself. And so I try to explain that to parents, and I do many sessions where I will be the one to explain it to the child or to the siblings. With siblings, depending on their age and their level of understanding, there's lots of books for kids about either being autistic or my brother, sister's autistic, and just kind of keep really open dialogue about it. Um, yeah, it's just so important.
Yeah,
And
and
I,
do you know what I found on your website? And I think I may actually put this in the show notes, is there's an incredible site, and they list a lot of resources, and it's called A Day in Our Shoes, a dayinaourshoes.com. And they have blog post, which is 23 books about siblings, who are autistic,
Mhm,
Down syndrome and so on. And a couple of which stand out to me. One is autism in my family, and another one, everybody is different. It's just there's a big list of them, and I strongly encourage everybody to check
mhm.
that out. So
Yeah.
I suppose it's coming to the end of 2022 now, as per the recording of this episode. 2023 is fast approaching. Have you got any exciting plans that you feel comfortable revealing on this pokey little neurodiversity podcast?
Do I have exciting plans? Probably not. I have kind of a boring life. I don't know.
I
It's
have a
so
boring life.
interesting. Pardon?
Boring is fun. Boring is fun. Boring's fine.
I tell you, ever since COVID, I have given myself permission to be more of a homebody. It's been a really good experience for me to realize that that's where I thrive. And my job, which was external, has become working from home. And I don't know, I think yeah, I like that. So I've been there, done that, you know?
Yeah, I know, I get you. And I'm pretty much the same. I mean, with the NTI Empire, but the vast majority of it is like pretty much home based for me now.
Yeah, yeah,
Which which is much more preferable, like because all the NTI team we're all remote,
yeah,
and I think
yeah.
it's much better being remote anyway. I think it's very much a future, and if there was ever a silver lining of COVID, which I actually talked about with Dan Brown in another episode, and
Mhm.
I suppose the silver lining is that the job that they always said couldn't be done from home is now indeed being done from home. So,
Yes.
I mean, we can have a silver lining there. And finally, I know we've got your website, which is autism360support.com. So you can connect with Jen there. So, are there any other ways to connect with you? Your socials, anything else? LinkedIn? Is there any other
Yeah.
way people can get in touch?
Well, I have done on my Instagram, which is at Jen Slaton, a number of live interviews with different autistic people, parents or adults. And I did it with a partner of mine, and we started basing on the book, The Reason I Jump, which was written by a nonverbal autistic boy. And he described just different experiences being autistic. And so we would take one chapter and then discuss it with people who could really relate to that and go in depth. And so those are all on my Instagram, and some of the discussions were really enlightening. So
Absolutely. And if you do Instagram interviews and you're ever looking for a guest, absolutely hit me up. Instagram
oh,
Live.
I'd love
I'm a bl-
to.
I'm a black belt in Instagram Lives, even though I haven't done one in quite some time. And it's one thing because I mean we help people get their social media marketing right. And sometimes I do get messages being like, "You don't go live enough," and I'm like, "I know, leave me alone. There's nobody in the world that's not good at following their own advice at times." So, Jen, listen, thank you so much for coming on. I'm absolutely delighted. And for everybody listening, that's autism360support.com. Thank you, Jen Slaton, for coming on the show and for all your diagnostic marketing and all these exciting happy needs to look at your growth in 2023. Check out our site, which is neurodiversity-training.net. Thank you once again. Don't forget to leave your podcast reviews, and I will see you again for another edition of the Neurodiversity Gold